Probably not for you. But.
Well, we still see I've been doing this 20, let's show this room a little bit, 23 years, and I still see stuff that wows me. I had must have been an upset sister or something. At a job in Addiston where I had to get 27 Matchbox cars out of the sewer line.
Oh, good grief.
Yeah, so I'm guessing he must have ticked the sister off a good bit. So you've got roughly 4 foot with 4-inch PVC, and it goes to clay.
Yeah, it goes to clay, I know that. Seems like when it gets about halfway out there is when it usually gets.
You got some evidence of true roots there. You can see the black around the. You can see some small roots there.
And I don't know if we haven't used that Rudex in a bit. Just I don't know if it was. Probably been a year since I've done it.
So the thing with Rudex is, one, you don't want to put it in a toilet unless you absolutely have to.
Well, I usually put it down here.
Okay,
Yeah, I put it in here.
And then depending on how long the line is, usually rule of thumb, what I tell people is to buy 4 pounds and then flush it with 20 gallons of water and then let it sit for 18 hours without running water.
Yeah, it's pretty much what we do. I always have to do it when the girls in the house are away.
Right. And then do it religiously.
That was every 6 months for a couple of years. I think
I'm
that's
coming up on something that looks like heavy roots. Yeah. You probably got 90% blockage right there.
the heck is that?
It's all roots and sludge build up. Trying to see if I can get a condition of the pipe. I'm not going to be able to see it. I might go all the way out to the main and clean my camera. So there's 2 ways to line, 2 options that we usually do. One, if you don't want to go all the way to within a foot of the tap, then you go 1 section past the last root ball.
Okay.
Sometimes people say, well, let's go 2 or 3 sections. Or 2, you go within a foot of the tap. We don't usually recommend lining to the tap. We say within a foot or so, because if you line, the only reason that you would line to the tap is if you have issues at the tap. Because if that liner stretches into the main, that's a $2,500 Schwalm cut.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if it's a 1/16 of an inch, a 1/4 of an inch. If it goes into the main, you have to cut it off. So
when you say into the main, you like into the main.
The city main.
Okay. Okay.
Which we're coming up to now. Looks like that's a turn. So there's your city tap.
Okay.
So
you typically say go significantly short of that.
Within a foot.
Okay.
Yeah, so we'll usually aim for within a foot of the tap, as long as there's no issues with the tap. Yeah. So you're 110 foot to the tap. Now, what I'll do is, we know it's 110, so I'll bring it back to the last root ball, and then you can decide where you would want to line it to. Even to the furthest root ball at 6 inch, we're still to the big drum. So you would either have to remove all. I gotta make sure the drum fits through that door, but it definitely would have to be. This would have to be gone because it wouldn't fit.
Okay.
Or you dig a hole outside, and then we shoot the liner from that hole, and then when we're done, we put in a clean out and backfill.
I'm assuming that's significantly more expensive usually.
Yeah, because you've got a depth of. It's probably $5,800 more to dig outside.
Oh, okay.
Have you thought about calling your insurance company to see if you had any coverage?
No, but I guess I could. It didn't cost my money.
Yeah.
You'd definitely have to help me like, what is it that they...
So, if you have coverage, it's one of them things where you don't want to talk too much.
That's why I'm saying, it's
don't
like
wanna
if you
give
guys
too
know
much.
the way to say
Right.
it.
So, basically, most of them will just call and say, hey, do I have any coverage for my sewer lateral outside?
Okay, okay.
And then let them ask the questions.
Right.
Because some companies cover root intrusion, some don't. And the way that I always fight the root intrusion, if they don't cover it, is, well, the roots wouldn't be in there if there wasn't something wrong with the pipe.
Right.
There has to be an opening
Right.
in the pipe for the roots to get in. But, most of the time when it's covered, it's, they'll cover $10,000.
Yeah.
It seems to be the consensus. If, there's some policies that I've had that cover up to $25,000.
Yeah.
So this, we would want to jet this, and the way that works with the jetting, as long as you're above our minimum, which you are, because 35 foot's our minimum, I would send you a quote for jetting. It's $9.95 to jet. You pay for the jet upon completion, and then if we do a liner, we credit that $9.95 back.
Okay.
The liner for this length's about $150, $155 a foot. As long as we don't have to do any outside digging, that's your price.
Okay.
We open the floor to shoot the liner.
Okay.
And the reason for that is our liner is a structural liner. There's no other competitor out there that can say there's a structural. We want to shoot, so it's a 4 to 6 transitional liner. So you got a little bit of 4 inch and then the rest is 6. Some companies will say, well, we don't have to open the floor. We're going to shoot this flexi liner in. And basically it's a 4 inch liner that they stretch to 6 inch. And if you stretch something, it thins it out.
Okay.
If this was, a travertine or granite floor in a bathroom or something, that's the only time we would recommend that you do a flexi liner. If you had a clean out there, but you couldn't really open the floor. But in this case, with it being an unfinished area, it's not as bad.
So you said 155 a foot. How many? Would you say like 100-ish feet?
To the tap, yeah. Now, if you only go, right now I'm trying to find the last root ball. I mean, if you don't have a bunch of trees on that side of the house, the trees that are there are going to already be established. The roots are already going to be established, so the chances of getting more roots in, depending on how far you go out, if you only go one section past the last root ball, there's always a chance that you're going to get, those roots aren't going to come through the liner, but it's not to say that they're not going to go down.
Right. Well, I always assume they're going to try to find something.
They're going to try and find a joint downstream. And we usually don't recommend to go 1 or 2 sections past unless they're really strapped for money.
Right.
Because there's a pretty good chance that they're going to get in there again. To have to go through all that again, because you will have to open the floor again, and if you only went out, let's say 65 feet. So at 60 about 66 feet. You can see some small roots in there. Not major, but so if you were going to just do a partial, you would basically put in a 71-foot line.
Okay, gives me an idea. But you would recommend going, I know the best is to go all the way out to the street, but you would recommend going a little past that.
Past the 71?
Yeah.
But again, we can only guarantee what we line.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if we only line to 71 and you get roots at
73.
85,
Yeah,
then
yeah.
We'll come out and camera it for free to make
Yeah.
sure it's nothing on us.
right.
But you're not going to have that warranty
Right.
as you would in the 73.
What are the warranties?
It's got a 10-year warranty on it.
Okay.
It's got a 50-year life expectancy.
Okay.
Same as PVC, so if you was to dig it up, the life expectancy of
Yeah.
PVC is 50 feet.
Okay.
I'm sorry, 50 years.
I'm going to be here for hopefully no more than 10. So.
And the thing with, if you go to sell, I would say it's probably 90% of either real estate companies, finance companies, or inspectors are recommending to scrap the lines.
I would think that would be the case, especially around here.
So the plus side to that, and I ran into this over off a Little Dry Run. This lady had no idea she had any problems. So her house was sold pending, and her line was shot. Hers was 330 feet long. Went through the two neighbors' yards, and $33,000 later, she had a new sewer line. So she lost money on the house where she could have adjusted the price if she had known.
Now I'm assuming that, and not that we care anyway, it's just my own curiosity. The work's like a day, essentially, I would say. But
this one should be a day.
Okay.
It may go into a day and a half
I mean, my wife and I both work from home.
with the longer length.
What I'm probably going to do is I'm going to write down what you said and probably ask you to repeat it again. The way to ask the insurance company, and then I want to give them a call too and see what. I mean, I've got State Farm, so I don't know if that's good or bad. Or
It seems like it differs. I mean, one day we'll get State Farm that's not covered.
Yeah.
One day we'll get it, and sometimes it's somebody had to have a separate attachment or whatever.
My experience with insurance has been over time, whatever I have, it's just outside of it. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
That would happen 4 feet different.
Well, I had one where they had coverage up to the house being 50 years old. So the house was 49 years old, but the house, they started on it, and the insurance company went off at the first tax season, and it was 51 years old, or 51 and a half.
Insurance companies are my favorite. I like the agent I have right now,
Yeah. But what kills me is you'll see these neighborhoods, everybody getting new roofs. The roof was 20 years old and wore out, and insurance is covering them, but then they won't cover something like this. The insurance, it's almost like certain times of the year they get kicked back.
Yeah. Well, now that evidently they're doing more of that, like their how old was the roof? Because they used to just replace it, but now evidently, because I like, why am I the only one that ever pays for a new roof? Like, I just have, I don't know if it's because we have enough trees here that we have hail, I don't get enough damage. Yeah, my brother-in-law was a roofer, for a contractor roofer. He's like, you know what? Half the time I can't even tell when somebody says they got a new roofer that's from this or that. He's like, I can't even tell. He says it all depends on, and I've had insurance people. It's like it all depends on who comes and looks.
And it comes down to dishonest roofing companies too, because they'll go in. I've seen them. I had a friend that did roofing, and he ended up being